They're not announcing it on Wall Street, but some of America's biggest companies are packing their bags headed straight for Canada tax breaks, political shifts, or something even deeper. The media isn't talking, but we are. Stick around, because the names on this list will shock you. And the reasons even more. Number 6, Coca-Cola. Who knew the king of American soda would ghost the US like a toxic ex-Coca-Cola? The red and white icon of summer baseball and backyard BBQs is slowly sneaking across the border. No press releases, no farewell tour, just poof, a packaging plant pops up in Ontario and aluminum supply deals get inked in Quebec. Why tariffs slammed US aluminum imports and Coca-Cola's can costs exploded, faced with bleeding billions. Or finding a loophole they chose. Door number 2, move north and keep it quiet. And don't think this is just about cans. Jobs are vanishing from US plants like your last soda in the fridge. Prices at home inch higher. And suddenly your all-American Coke might start saying made in Canada, if Coca-Cola the poster child for Americana is. Bouncing for better deals. Who's next? Ford, McDonald's, or maybe Katy Perry? Stay close, this rabbit hole goes way deeper than sugar and bubbles. Number 5, General Motors. Remember when General Motors was untouchable? The pride of Detroit, the muscle behind the American dream your grandpa probably built. Buicks, your uncle drove a Chevy, and every Thanksgiving someone at the table had a GM paycheck. But 2025, that legacy is peeling off like rust on an old truck, and no one's sounding the alarm. You'd expect GM, the cornerstone of American manufacturing, to go down with a fight. Spoiler alert. They're not fighting, they're relocating silently, strategically northbound, while most Americans are stuck wondering why their car costs $7,000 more than it did 3 years ago. GM's already playing chess in Ontario, and this isn't some overnight we out of here stunt. It's death by 1,000 moves. Step 1, parts. GM doesn't build cars in a vacuum. It needs thousands of components from hundreds of suppliers. But when tariffs hit like a steel bat to the ribs, those parts suddenly triple the price, thanks to the US doubling down on steel and aluminum tariffs. 50% on Canadian imports. By mid-2025, GM's supply chain turned into a money pit. Raising car prices isn't like bumping soda to $2.99. Nobody impulse buys a $40,000 SUV. So when US demand flatlined, GM blinked and whispered, let's try Canada. The first red flag, a quiet explosion of investment over $2.6 billion in GM Canada since 2020. Sounds innocent, right? But that includes a massive electric vehicle push in St. Catharines. They're building EV drive units in Beauharnois, Quebec. They're dropping over $1 billion into a new CAM cathode active material battery plant with POSCO. That's not diversifying, that's planning a long-term escape route. Meanwhile, in the US, plants are either slowing down or shutting doors. The CAMI assembly plant in Ingersoll had to lay off around 1,200 workers in April 2025, just to retool for next G models. Translation: we're shutting down now and maybe we'll call you back later. Spoiler again, they rarely do. But wait, it gets juicier while US plants are hitting the brakes. GM is hiring engineers in Ontario and Quebec, like they're giving away Teslas, hundreds of high-skilled jobs. Many focused on smart manufacturing. EV software and automation are being filled quietly. Want to guess where the next GM innovation hub is? It's not in Michigan anymore. Don't let the CEO interviews fool you on paper. GM is still committed to American jobs. But on the ground, every dollar invested in Canada is one less building the future in Flint or Detroit. And when you erode that foundation factory by factory, contract by contract, entire towns shrink. The ripple effect is brutal. Grocery stores close. Schools lose kids. Property values tank. Hope disappears like fog on a windshield. Here's the real kicker. This isn't a political stunt or a one-time thing. It's math, it's logistics, it's survival. If making a car in Canada is faster, cheaper, and comes without doesn't just lose a company, it loses a symbol. If this surprised you, guess what? We're just warming up. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe before we dive into the next big name. Leaving the US in the dust. Number 4, Alcoa Corporation. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but it's happening 1 metric ton at a time. The aluminum behind your soda can, car body, airplane, fridge, and skyscraper. It's starting to get stamped with Made in Canada and the company behind it. Alcoa, the backbone of American industry for over a century, is now quietly ghosting the US, and almost nobody's talking about it. This isn't just about moving a factory or saving a few bucks. This is a slow, calculated decoupling. Alcoa has been battered in 2025 by the industrial version of a triple threat: exploding electricity prices, crumbling US smelters, and a brutal 25% tariff on imported aluminum, slapped on by the US itself. Sounds backwards, right? Welcome to the current industrial circus. So Alcoa did what any bruised giant would do. It slid north, not with a bang, no press conference, no grand goodbye, just one port slowing down in Houston while another lights up in Montreal, one less night shift in Texas, a few more trucks rolling through Quebec. $1 billion smelter upgrade in Bay-Quimo, Quebec, quietly placed on pause, but hydroelectric power contracts extended all the way to 2040. Yeah, that's a clue. Let's be real, aluminum isn't sexy. It doesn't trend, but it runs your life. And when Alcoa sneezes, entire US industries catch the flu. Car manufacturers, electronics brands, soda companies, window builders, they all need Alcoa. But if the aluminum starts coming from across the border, the fallout hits home faster than a deleted TikTok draft. And it is hitting home layoffs in smelter towns that once pulsed with molten metal miners, wondering why the next shipment's not coming. Truck drivers suddenly told there's no run scheduled this week. Not because there's no demand, but because the raw materials are now pouring out of Quebec and into the US via import. Alcoa has been open about it too, but buried in earnings reports and investor calls. No regular person reads in the first quarter of 2025 they admitted a $20 million tariff hit, with a forecasted $90 million blow coming in the second quarter alone. That's not a paper cut, that's a gut punch. The company flat out said they're not planning to restart idled US smelters anytime soon. Translation: it's cheaper to operate abroad, even with the cost of shipping the stuff back in. Let's not forget, Quebec offers something the US can't compete with: massive hydropower deals. We're talking 2,100 megawatts locked in through 2040. That's enough energy to keep a small country glowing now, dedicated to melting down Boite and spitting out premium-grade aluminum for Alcoa. So what does this mean? Every ton of aluminum made in Canada is one less job in Kentucky, one less shift in Texas, one less local diner staying open past 8 p.m. It's death by quiet relocation, like watching your hometown mall turn into a ghost town. Slow enough that no one panics, fast enough that one day you realize, wait, it's all gone. And don't be fooled into thinking this is just a temporary adjustment. You don't invest billions, sign power deals for 15 years, and pause US operations because you're thinking about it. Alcoa's future is being cast in Canadian molds, not American furnaces. So next time you crack open a soda, run your hand over a car hood or pass a glimmering skyscraper, ask yourself, is that American shine or imported glow? Because Alcoa is not waiting for anyone. They've already packed the truck number 3, Campbell Soup. Who knew even soup could pack its bags and dip out of America? That's right, Campbell, the warm hug in a bowl, the red and white label that's lived in every pantry since forever, is quietly taking its cans and heading north. This isn't some nostalgic 90s brand fading out. It's a billion-dollar food giant that's had enough of America's rising costs and policy chaos. Here's the cold part. Over 90% of Campbell's products come in aluminum cans, so when the US slapped a fat 25% tariff on Canadian aluminum and then turned around and jacked up prices again, it wasn't just a government move, it was a death sentence for affordable packaging. Campbell doesn't make aluminum, they buy it, and when their suppliers, Charge more. That cost doesn't disappear, it ends up in your grocery cart. But Campbell's customers aren't out here bawling. We're talking tight budgets. People who feel every dime, so even a 10-cent increase per can risks sending shoppers running to cheaper options or skipping soup altogether. That's when Campbell had to choose raise prices and lose loyal customers, or shift production somewhere. Aluminum is cheaper, power is stable, and costs aren't spiking like crazy. Guess which one they chose? No big press event, no dramatic TV commercial, just a quiet migration, packaging contracts drifting into Ontario, job listings popping up in Toronto and London. Ontario, it's not a sprint, but the direction is clear, and it ain't south, and it's not just a canning decision. This hits way deeper. That little red and white can in your kitchen has a whole ecosystem behind it. The label printer in Ohio, the carrot farmer in Michigan, the trucker hauling pallets in Pennsylvania. When Campbell nudges even part of its operations out of the US, it sends ripple effects that knock entire towns sideways. Let's talk money in 2025. Campbell had to revise their earnings guidance down from 11% growth to just 6 to 8%. And why tariffs? Aluminum costs rising, energy prices. Their own quarterly report basically waved a red flag, warning about a $90 million hit in Q2 alone, just from input costs like aluminum and steel. That's not pennies. That's a corporate migraine. Meanwhile, Canada's out here looking like a snack-cheap hydro power, friendly regulations, no insane tariff whiplash. So it makes total sense that Campbell would start pushing more. Operations up there, the ports in Montreal, are buzzing, while back in the US facilities are either downsizing or sitting quiet. Houston's aluminum flow way down, Canada's cranked up. Let's get even darker, because this isn't just about soup. When aluminum becomes too expensive to package basic food, the dominoes start falling. If Campbell can't make profit on a can of soup without charging more than the average family can afford, then where does it stop? Forget seasonal price hikes. We're talking permanent price inflation on essentials. And no, they're not yelling it from the rooftops. No company wants the headline. Campbell Soup abandons America, so they're just moving little by little. Fewer cans made here, more contracts signed there, slowly draining out jobs, money and industry without saying a word. So next time you heat up that bowl of chicken noodle and see the label say made in Canada, that's not just a fun little trivia moment. That's the sign of a giant quietly walking out the back door while we all thought it was still in the kitchen. Number 2, Tesla. The company that once screamed in America is now whispering in French and printing blueprints in Ontario. Tesla. The electric revolution on 4 wheels isn't just moving cars anymore, it's moving borders, shifting blueprints, and rewriting the map of innovation. And nobody's paying attention. This isn't a Pastant or a Musk meme drop. This is strategy, cold hard data driven in 2025. Tesla looked around and realized power grids in the US are on life support. Electricity bills are climbing faster than their stock used to, and regulators are playing red. Light green light with billion-dollar factories, so they didn't rant. They recalculated enter Ontario and Quebec, clean energy check, stable hydroelectric power rates, double check, fast track approvals, and access to battery-grade lithium graphite and rare earth minerals. That's the golden ticket. While US projects are caught in environmental review purgatory, Tesla's Canadian operations are quietly moving from planning to production with machine-like precision. Let's talk facilities. The robot building factory in Markham, that's not just a quirky Canadian offshoot, it's becoming the heartbeat of Tesla's automation division. Hundreds of new job postings for controls, engineers, roboticists, software leads, all without Elon tweeting a single word about it. You blink, and suddenly the robots building the Teslas aren't coming from Texas. They're being made just outside Toronto. Meanwhile, over in Quebec, it gets even crazier. Tesla's eyeing a full-stack ecosystem from digging lithium out of the earth to shaping it into battery cells. And they're not alone. Canada has a $52.5 billion federal provincial battery chain investment strategy practically begging Tesla to build up north. Why wouldn't they take the bait back in the States? Things are less inspiring, power grid failures, rolling blackouts, utility bills with more surprises than a horror movie. It's tough to build the future when you can't even keep the lights on, and while Tesla won't admit it outright, their US gigafactory timelines have quietly shifted, slowed, or gone dark altogether. Tesla fans might argue it's just expansion, not abandonment, but here's the kicker. When Tesla moves, everything follows: AI suppliers, chip developers, charging tech, solar subsidiaries. It's a package deal. So when Tesla's ecosystem starts rooting itself in Canadian soil, the ripple effect is massive. Even the numbers are screaming in 2025. Tesla deliveries in Quebec plummeted 87% after rebate freezes and retaliatory tariffs from Canada. And yet they're still doubling down on investment there. That's not chasing sales, that's laying down roots. And while American headlines debate EV subsidies, here's the kicker. When Tesla moves, everything follows: AI suppliers, chip developers, charging tech, solar subsidiaries. It's a package deal. So when Tesla's ecosystem starts rooting itself in Canadian soil, the ripple effect is massive. Even the numbers are screaming in 2025. Tesla deliveries in Quebec plummeted 87% after rebate freezes and retaliatory tariffs from Canada. And yet they're still doubling down on investment there. That's not chasing sales, that's laying down roots. And while American headlines debate EV subsidy, the brains behind it might just be sipping Tim Hortons on their lunch break. Tesla isn't turning its back on America, it's just hedging its bets with cold logic and Canadian contracts. And if they're doing it quietly, that should worry everyone even more, because the future isn't just being built anymore, it's being relocated. Number 1, Ford, the company that once put the world on wheels, is now steering in a whole new direction. And spoiler alert, it's not toward Detroit Ford, the blueprint of blue-collar pride and a name. Tattooed across American muscle is dropping billions in Canada. Yeah, you read that right. Back in 2024, Ford casually dropped $2.3 billion into Oakville, Ontario, not Michigan, not Ohio, not even Texas. The mission: crank out more of their beloved FS Series Super Duty trucks. We're talking one of Ford's best-selling, most profitable beasts, now being birthed in Canada's backyard. And while you were still arguing over gas versus electric, Ford was silently redrawing the map of American manufacturing. It gets juicier. Originally, Oakville was prepped to go full electric with SUVs, but when EV hype cooled and battery costs exploded, Ford hit the brakes. EV dreams delayed until 2027. Instead, they're doubling down on gas-powered trucks because guess where they can build them faster, cheaper, and with fewer headaches? Right there in Ontario, powered by 90% clean hydroelectric electric energy. Baby, let's be crystal clear. This isn't Ford quitting America, it's Ford getting smart. Us plants are slammed, energy costs are a joke, and labor negotiations feel like hostage situations. Meanwhile, Canada's handing out $500 million incentives like welcome baskets, Ontario said. Need some land power and a tax break. Ford said, say less. Result? 1,800 Canadian jobs secured, parts suppliers shifting contracts north, and small US towns watching opportunities slip out the door. It's the slow drip of industrial migration, less dramatic than a factory closing, but just as devastating. So, next time you see an F-150 roaring down the highway, take a second look at the label, because the new face of American toughness might just have a Canadian sense. So now you've seen it: 6 American giants quietly shifting their empires across the border. This isn't fear-mongering, it's a wake-up call. The logos may still scream red, white and blue, but the factories, they're humming to the sound of Canadian power grids. If the backbone of American industry is packing up what happens next, stick around. We're just getting started. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with someone who still thinks made in the USA. Means what it used to drop a comment below. We want to, even through location and people, Canada is not disrupting its regular subsidy schedule. This reduces the variance in CFO's forecast models. The benefit of this balanced policy is that every investment shifting north triggers a domino effect of new investments. How does this shift alter the long-term map of North American industry? First, the concept of the secondary market has been reversed. A major manufacturer can now first amortize costs in Canada and then add secondary capacity in Texas or Ohio. Second, port corridors have been revitalized. Direct shipping to Europe and Asia via Halifax or Vancouver avoids the customs and permit uncertainties associated with the Mexico-Chicago transit system. Third, while AI regulations constantly raise the question of where is the data authority, servers registered in Canada give the impression that commercial secrets are secure. Finally, regarding the labor force shift, a software engineer stuck in the visa backlog in Silicon Valley is securing residency in Toronto for the same salary. A mechanical engineer leaving Seattle is finding work in a battery lab in Windsor, and a logistics planner tired of Miami is designing drone routes in California.